Looking into the future is certainly not confined to crystal gazing, but there are times when perhaps the person's making predictions, well, maybe they should bottle up their views and not dispense them so generously to other people, because predictions, after all, can be wrong. I'm thinking way back, this is a historical matter now. The Decca Record Company evaluation was way back in 1962, and they evaluated the potential of a new musical group, and they said, we don't like the sound. Guitar groups are on the way out. Now that was I'm quoting of what the record company said. 1962, guitar groups are on the way out. Oh, what was the group they were referring to? Became known as the Beatles. How about this? How about the prediction by a noted film producer in Hollywood way back in 1938? He was a producer in Hollywood, and he made a prediction about a certain book and about its potential as a movie. He said, and I'm quoting, he said, forget it. No Civil War picture ever made a nickel. So they're going to do, oh, what was the book? Gone with the Wind. All of this gives me a somewhat mixed feeling about my own predictions. It's good to know that others can miss the mark, but oh my, it also underscores what appears to be great odds against accuracy in any prophetic utterances that I might want to make. Oh, sure. It'll take too long to play. The rules are too complicated. The players are going round and round and round the board instead of ending at a final goal. Yeah, that was the conclusion of Parker Brothers, America's biggest games manufacturer. You know what Parker Brothers did? Way back in 1934, they rejected a game called Monopoly. They said that game would never work, never work. The game was later accepted by the Parker Brothers and has been played by over 300 million persons, I'm told. Well, anyway, you run into this situation about predictions. Do we know what it might be? Do we know what it might be? I think of this, the father of Orville and Wilbur Wright. You know, they were the ones who made that dramatic first ever powered flight at Kitty Hawk in 1903. I know it doesn't mean that you were there, but it's a historical thing that people have referred to, I'm sure. But anyway, the father of the two men who were responsible for the first flight, Orville and Wilbur Wright, the father said, I'm quoting now from a newspaper way back when. No, I wasn't there then, but these are clippings that are in some different books. Anyway, the father said, quote, they'll never do it. It is only given to God and the angels to fly. Well, that was something of a wrong prediction, wasn't it? Finally, for today, talking about this business of making wrong predictions, near the turn of a century, I read that in Germany, a teacher wrote the following about one of his pupils at a high school in Munich, Germany. The teacher said, he will never amount to anything. And who was the pupil? Who was the pupil being referred to? Yeah, his name was Einstein, yeah. Albert Einstein. I think there's a lesson in that for all of us. Back with you next week. Many years ago, Joe Archibald was, he was behind the other people like Faulkner or Frost. I guess their names are better known as authors than Joe Archibald. But I'm thinking of just some interesting things that Archibald wrote. For example, Archibald created for me a skinny, nutty little bumpkin who went by the name of Phineas Pinkham. Yep, that's right. And there are lots of interesting little stories. In one story, Phineas Pinkham's plane was machine gunned and burning, but the hero did not jump from the airplane as it headed earthward. The author, well, why didn't he? Why didn't the hero jump from the plane as it was going to crash into the earth? Well, the author said, don't be silly. He was superstitious, and it was Friday the 13th. Oh, my, an interesting reference there. Oh, and Archibald, again, he could describe quite a interesting group of people. A group of German aviators, Archibald described them this way, quote, under each eye was a wrinkled bag big enough to hold a dozen marbles. Oh, my. How about this for a title of a story? This is the story that he wrote. It's not Ask Me No Questions. This one was Gas Me No Question. That was the title of the story. My goodness. Oh, in that story, incidentally, you see, Phineas Pinkham was in the company of one glamorous French blonde, and her name, they just referred to her as Babette. Anyway, in this story, a bomb exploded in the street, and there is confusion and there is fright, but Phineas Pinkham rushes over and rescues Babette. Now, for the description of the scene, you could have said it a number of different ways. This is how Phineas helped Babette, according to this short story written many, many years ago. Quote, Phineas helped Babette to her undercarriage, and he put a supporting wing about her slim fuselage. I think rather creative writing. Anyway, many years ago, I followed the adventures of Phineas Pinkham. It was a story about him that was in a monthly magazine called Flying Aces, and they would have stories off and on, and I enjoyed reading them. And just because growing up, I built a lot of model airplanes, and when I would wind up the rubber bands or start the little gasoline engines which powered them, and I'd see my model airplanes go into the air. Oh, I was romanticized right then. I really appreciated that opportunity. So you have your literary characters who have meant much to you in other years, yes. I'm sure the people listening to the program here, you have your favorites, your treasure of oneness with fictional personalities, well known or not. And it's very true. I just know that when I was growing up, I thought a great deal about Phineas Pinkham. Mm-hmm. That's right. Come to think of it. Not only the character in fiction named Phineas Pinkham, but more than once I thought about Babette also. Back with you next week. So what are we going to do about it? Well, do about what? Oh, sometimes we don't really say things exactly the way we intend them. Simple little matters. I have a collection of over 500 slides of billboards, advertisements, headlines, story, all sorts of things where the words just were not the correct ones that came out. And it can be all sorts, but they still were there, for example, in the advertisement or on the big billboard. Yes, still there. For example, there was one that a fellow had a job that he wanted people to know as they drove by his home that this would be a good place if you needed some work with your yard and so on. But you see, the word that he had after his name was supposed to be landscaping, but it didn't come out that way. The SC never appeared. It was land aping. Land aping, yeah. I've got a photo of that thing. Land aping, isn't that awful? And then I was driving down a highway somewhere in Ohio, so I think it was a little further south of Alliance, but in any event, if I had done what it said, well, I don't know. I didn't have a pencil or a pen with me. They meant to say that there would be a drawbridge up ahead, but they didn't use drawbridge as one word. And so it simply said, drawbridge ahead. Well, I would if I'd had a piece of paper and a pencil. I'd have drawn the bridge. But I couldn't quite do that. These things, in any event, and they happen in a great many different ways. A fellow whose first name is Mark, and he does a lot of trucking, and the name of his firm is simply Hallmark, not Hallmark. We know that for other purpose, but Haul, and then another word, Mark. Hallmark. He was taking advantage of a couple of words that sounded the same, of course, getting impressions, Going to get something like that in any event. And what are we going to do here? Somebody might be a little confused. There was an ad in a newspaper for pantyhose, P-A-N-T-Y, and then a space and another word, H-O-S-E. You might ask yourself, let's see, I water the grass a lot, but I never had a hose like that. Oh my! All sorts of uses, of course, of the words and of the way in which they appear or perhaps do not appear. In an advertisement in a large city newspaper, the word available was misspelled. Yes, it just came out A-V-A-L-B-L-E. You know what you could do with that? Available, I suppose. Not too bad for that. But in any event, it does happen. We have to be careful. I saw a speed limit sign once that said 25-45 speed limit. Well, which is it? Or is it that you couldn't go any lower than 25? Is that what it meant there? I don't know. But that's what it said with the two of them in any event. So you have to be concerned about those things, don't you? And it is with all those hundreds of thousands of words in our English language. Sometimes we can think we know what it means, yes, but it may come out the wrong way. The Nichols Bakery is an interesting name for the bakery, and it's a proper name, of course. Nickles, probably a family name. But in any event, it said, when hungry, pick nickels. What am I going to do? Eat nickels instead of dimes or quarters? Put them in my mouth? If you're hungry, it said that's what to do. Well, you're probably hungry to listen to some good music here at the station. That'll be it for the old professor today. Lyle Crist here. By golly, I remembered my name. I'll be back with you next week at the same time. Dear friends, if you ever listen to this program at any other time, I don't know why you should, of course, but I know that I use some things out of a book called The Phony Phone Book by Mill Poltroon, and it has just some wonderful humor in it. If you're willing to take a look at the yellow pages, that's where the advertisements are. And of course, they're just made-up advertisements. That's what makes them funny. For example, make your own antiques. Rent our trained termites, carpenter ants, and worms, and convert your outdated new furniture to conversation antiques. Of course, this is all. These are fake ads, of course, but it was kind of fun to read these things. Seems to me that, well, even something like that might be all right with regard to making your own antiques. Might work out very well. Well, under a heading of attorneys, yes, attorneys, if you need an attorney, who I call here, get the phone numbers. Now, these are all made up, of course. How would you like to be a member of this attorney firm? Boop, boop, did-em, dot-em, Wadham, and chew, with commas in between. Boop, boop, did-em, wadham, chew. Well, I didn't say it quite that way the first time. Of course, they're just fun names. And we know the wonderful music, of course. We do, don't we? Sometimes. Well, then, we can have an advertisement which maybe just gets our attention because of what the illustration is. It's the illustration of 2 feet. Feet meaning not 12 inches, but belonging to people. And it says for the ad, now this is this make-up's crazy ad, never buy shoes again. Never buy shoes? Why not? What could you do if you didn't have shoes? Apply liquid nature shoe to your feet. In 2 days, they're covered with luxurious fur. Choose from brown, black, or saddle Oxford. Easy upkeep. Yes, just wash feet once weekly. Or if you live in a muddy area, you might have to do it twice. In other words, you got a lot of long hair all over your 2 feet. Then you don't need shoes. If the hair is that big, yes. How about that? Wonderful, crazy ads in here on purpose. Sometimes we see ads that weren't on purpose to be crazy. but in here they all are. For example, there's an ad here for remove your elbow. Well, why would you want your elbow removed? Well, it says, eat in comfort on airlines at last. Enjoy new freedom with a total arm length of just 10 inches. Now, whether you've ever had that concern or not, but here's another crazy ad just for fun. Say goodbye to ugly cockroaches. Yes, goodbye. What do you mean, you're going to kill them? No, you're not going to kill the cockroaches. Send for our cockroach improvement kit. It includes sequins, feathers, beads, glue, everything you need to turn ugly cockroaches into beautiful household pets. And so it be. Well, these strange things from this book simply called the Phony Phone Book. And of course it's all phony, but still there's the possibility of getting some laughs out of them, of getting some, this is a little bit like something I actually saw, not to be funny, not to be crazy, but was nonetheless in there. It could be. What is man's best friend? This one ad says, from the Mausoleum. The man's best friend? A moose. So purchase your own pet moose. Well, all sorts of those things. You can get an articulated thumb, that's right. That'll help you with lessons in hitchhiking. Makes your thumb a lot bigger than it would be otherwise. Well, anyway, all of these things in a book called The Phony Phone Book by Emil Poltrum. And it gives you some chuckles because they're so crazy and ridiculous, and yet they might even remind you of something that you might have seen in an advertisement. It could happen. It's going to happen now that the program's over for today. Back with you later. Bye-bye. Well, as a retired English professor, I remember many years ago when I was very active at Mount Union College faculty in the English department and teaching classes, of course, and enjoying it very much. Did that for a long time, appreciated that opportunity. But you have to have some sense of awareness of your own. Are you doing the good job? Do you know more than the students? And so on. I wrote a poem about this one time. I called it On Having Read the Perfect Paper. You can see the situation that this English prof did. Joy unbounded is mine today. I've given a theme a grade of A. No participles dangled, no words misspelt. It's the greatest joy I've ever felt. Topic sentences, proper diction. This sounds as though it must be fiction, but the words were there in right sequence. Excellent expression. Some days hence I'll put it back upon the shelf and and pretend I hadn't written it myself. Yep. If you got to teach poetry writing, you better write some poetry yourself. If you're going to teach theme writing, well, you better try to write some themes yourself, yes. But anyway, so it happens. I enjoy putting words on paper. Here's one called Before the Dawn. This is not a silly little poem now. It's a simple poem about, this one night I heard a bird in the backyard singing in the middle of the night. Before the dawn, the song began, before the sweep of light. No matter if it was moments or more, this backyard bird sang, knowing his melody a harbinger. And I thought how often only after rewards were given have I sung, but how faith is a song before the dawn. See? Faith. The bird had faith that the dawn was coming, so why wait? Well, let's see. Here's a poem titled Teacher that I wrote many years ago when I taught at Mount. Quote, lives, not mere faces, are in classroom rows, though impatience, despair, sullen view interposing would have this unremembered, but chalkboards express disciplines in hourly cadence, and teachers show remembrances. Yes, you remember what happened in the class before or another class. You learn from those things. Teachers never stop learning, if they're good teachers. And of course, what we have at Mount Union, I know are. Well, here's one called Prof and Student. Yes, this was a fun poem that I wrote many years ago. Have you ever seen a prof when his dignity is off, with his classroom air all shot now that everything's been taught? Shoes off, bad joke, peanut butter, evening paper, crazy dreams, fix the shutter, television, Saturday bath, atom bomb, Dr. Pepper, bank book balance, and a note to mom. Chase the dog, clean your room, many meetings, on the phone and off to church and Christmas greetings, cheese sandwich, love, pleased and worried, ping pong, model cars, and always hurried, heartaches, glories, a bit of fame. Well, whether it's prof or student, it's much the same. I like the poem because I appreciate that fact. Professors sometimes think that students get involved in too many other things, and that's why they don't do a good job in the classroom. What about the prof? Might get in too many things. And I'll conclude our little program today with a little poem that I wrote again many years ago, entitled Puppy. How many years ago? Well, the Pale Horse Press published a collection of my poems in 1976. My goodness, quarter of a century ago, huh? Here's one called Puppy. What's the puppy's name? I asked the boy on the bike, the gray-white fluff grinning in a cardboard box astride the front wheel. Dogs have grins so imperceptible that when one is seen, well, you know you have something authentic. And the boy said, name? Christmas. Yes, I said too. I told myself it's like a present every day, and watched them ride away. I like that. That'd be a good name for a dog. Christmas. Because you see, with that good dog in your home, it's just like getting a present every day. Oh, I'm going to give you a present now. Right now. I'm going to end the program. Back with you next week. Hello.
Perfect.
I am checking.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take long for your voice. Slap it on.
You know what I'm going to call you?
What? What?
Well, there's one thing for sure, and that is that there are some good, fun words and uses of words and little jokes and so on. And I don't know where I found some of these I made up. Some of them I found in different references. But I do like wordplay very much. And I think of the different ways in which these things can come about. Well, just to suggest and share a few of them here, but it can be much more. But suppose I had this fellow, since I'm on the campus radio station here, have you heard the one about the oh my, I used to be a radio host, but now I wash plates for a living. You wash plates for a living? Yeah. But you used to be a radio host? Yeah, but now I'm a dish jockey. I like that one very much. Yes. And then we have with the television reporter here, according to this one, what do television reporters wear under their pants? You know what they wear? News briefs. I like that, see. I mean, it's wordplay, of course. That's all that it is. But you can have a lot of fun with them in different ways. Oh my! For example, when is your birthday? Suppose somebody asks you that. When is your birthday? Well, it's October 17th. What year? Oh, it's every year. See how we've got to know what's being asked, and we got to know the meaning of the terms. Well, then, I want to share with you just some wordplay regarding the names of cities, because I think, for example, what's the name of a city in Ohio that tells us why it is so dry outside? City in Ohio. The name of the city tells us why it's so dry outside. Lorraine. I like that one. There's a city in Pennsylvania where the remainders of peaches are stored. Well, what city in Pennsylvania would you have the remainders of the peaches stored there? The answer? It'd be a Pittsburgh. I like those things. I think they. Oh, and one more here with these this wordplay about names of cities. These can go on and on and on. In fact, they're fun to make up. You can try to make them up. That's true. I mean, here we have Alliance, Ohio, but who's in charge of Alliance, Ohio? Lions. See, get a bunch of lions here. They're in charge of it, I guess. Well, anyway, what about the name of a city in Ohio that agrees with the statement that evil is bad? Now, the name of the city agrees with that evil is bad. It's a big city in Ohio. Big one. And it agrees that evil is bad. By the very name, it agrees with it. And the name is Sins Are Naughty. Those sins are bad too, see? Well, those things, we get all around with them. We have a little fun with them. Wordplay. Sure. I had fun in teaching freshman English at Mount Union years ago, of course. Sometimes we'd have fun with words just a little bit. Yeah, that's true. And when it happens, well, for example, putting something in the wrong part of the sentence or putting an inappropriate word in. And you might come up with something like a safety factor in the home, and you might say, slipping in bathtubs is due primarily to curved bottoms. That's getting a little personal, isn't it? Well, that's enough for getting personal with the program this week. I'll be back with you next week, same time. Bye-bye.